Transcripts and recordings of the podcast may not be used for any purpose without the direct written permission of the podcast owner. Welcome to LITE It Up, a podcast about resilient women balancing motherhood, their careers, personal lives, and all of the challenges that come along with being a superwoman. Each week, you'll be motivated to take action, to lead, inspire, transform, and empower. Now, here's your host, Dr. Regina Mashira. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Season 6 of LITE It Up podcast. I am your host, Dr. Regina Mashira. I am so excited to be back on the air, back on the microphone with you all. There were a few weeks in between last season and Season 6. I had to take a little bit of a break, and I hope that your 2023 is off to a great start. I'll just say that 2022 ended on a somewhat shaky note for me, but I was thankful to be able to have an opportunity to regroup and get rejuvenated and be able to come back on the microphone to be with you all. I have, I guess, just so many things that I want to talk about. I don't want to take up too much time. It is not often that I actually record a podcast episode with video when I don't have a guest, but I decided that I'd do something a little bit differently in 2023 and come out of my shell and show my face without a guest. So I hope that you will indulge me for a few minutes, just so I can give you a few updates and let you know what to expect with this season. One of the things that I think is so very important is for me to remind my listeners and viewers who have been rocking with me for the last 3 years why this podcast was developed. And then for those of you who are new to tuning in to LITE It Up, I want to say thank you for giving me an opportunity and deciding to check out the podcast. I sincerely appreciate you spending a few moments with me today. When I started LITE It Up in 2020, it was right before the world shut down in the midst of the pandemic. And of course, none of us would have known that we would be living in a world where we were shut in and in some instances shut down. I had huge plans for LITE It Up, decided to launch the podcast as an offshoot from my book, Women Who Persevere, Navigating Motherhood with Power and Grace. And there's a book right behind me, as you can see. But I wanted to give women an outlet and a forum to kind of talk about topics that are of importance to us, particularly the notion of being able to balance motherhood, our personal lives, our careers. You know, many of us grew up thinking that we could have it all, and some of us developed that superwoman complex and have placed the weight of the world on our shoulders. We're trying to be everything and to everyone, and then we, I guess I'd say, if we're unable to accomplish everything that we intended, or if we're unable to have it all and balance it out, sometimes we may look at ourselves as not being enough, not being adequate enough. But I have learned, quite honestly, that idea of trying to have it all is unrealistic. I am perfectly okay with that. And I have just kind of gone with the flow, do what I can um, with the tools and the resources that I have available to me. For anyone who has uh, tuned into the podcast over the years, there are times that I talk about being a mom and having three beautiful children, which I view to be my greatest blessing. And I consider motherhood to be the most important title and role that I will ever have. And my children mean the world to me. And with that, I've always been driven to make sure that they had a better life than I had. And that's actually something that I'll probably talk about later on in some future episodes about my generation, Gen Xers, and how we've done a disservice to our children in some ways because we've given them everything. And as a result, there's this sense of entitlement. But as I digress, I wanted to create a platform because I know that there are other mothers who are just like me, and women in general who need to hear from other women about their successes, some of their challenges, and really, trying to get some pointers on how to live our best lives. And with that, I've tackled numerous topics. I will admit that the direction in which this podcast has gone was not necessarily what I thought, but I am excited about being able to share information with people, being able to provide my listeners and viewers with tools and resources that are going to help them make informed decisions. Last season, I was really focused in on trying to make sure that we get our affairs in order. So you may have tuned in to an episode where I had a friend of mine, Jocelyn Hope from State Farm Insurance Company, come in and talk to us about the importance of life insurance. Those are topics that I think are so important and critical to the success of our communities in terms of creating generational wealth and making sure that our legacy is preserved. And so a lot of the information that's shared on this podcast is not necessarily geared only to women. So men can benefit as well. And I think that's one area that makes LITE It Up podcast unique, because LITE It Up is really focused on helping people lead, making sure that you're inspired, finding a way to transform your life, and of course, empowering you to make the decisions that are going to be best for you and your well-being and your family. And so this season, my plan is to really hone in on some of those areas that we may not necessarily talk about. Going to talk a little bit more about parenting and motherhood, and fatherhood for that matter. But also had several men on the podcast where we've talked about the importance of Black fatherhood, the importance of Black men being in the classroom. We've touched, health issues, the health disparities within our community, our mental health and well-being. So I am asking you to continue to rock with me for another season. I'm always excited to hear from my audience about what they like about the podcast, where I can make some improvements, and if there are guests that you'd like to see. So don't be afraid to continue to provide those suggestions. I've gotten several great suggestions thus far, and so there are some very interesting guests who will be joining me this season. So I just want to make sure that you all certainly tune in. But one area that I want to touch on in terms of giving you just a few highlights on what's been happening in my world. I first want to say that 2023 is starting out to be more than I had envisioned. I mentioned that 2022, the ending was a little rocky for me personally, to be perfectly honest. But I made a decision that I was going to make some changes, much needed change within my life. For probably the last couple of years, I've had my massage therapist tell me, Agina, you need to go to yoga. The therapist would always say that I'm uptight, my muscles are tense, and you need to loosen up. And for the people who know me personally, I can be a little bit, tense, tight, not loose, just very serious because I have so many things that are on my plate that I'm juggling. And it's very rare that I let my hair down. And I finally realized that not taking care of myself, not finding ways to take a moment to meditate, stretch, what have you, and find that calmness and inner peace from within was really taking a toll on my well-being. So much so that I was beginning to have chest pains, back and shoulder pain, just the whole gamut, which caused me to have some concern and really come to the conclusion that I've got to do some things differently. And I want to say it's probably been about 4 weeks now. The day after Christmas, I finally made this decision to attend yoga. Now, I'd gone to yoga before, but hadn't stuck with it. And I really do believe the instructor makes a world of difference. So I've been to hip hop yoga, which I've loved. I've been to, what is it? It's the hot yoga. Yeah, I've been to the hot yoga. I've been to just your normal, I don't know, yoga class. And there was one yoga instructor class that I attended maybe a couple of years ago. And I consistently had her class locked in my calendar. So I knew that this class ran every Sunday at 11 a.m. But something would always happen that I couldn't make the class. And I finally decided on this Monday morning, I found out that there was a class near my house that she was facilitating on a Monday morning. And I went to the class. So while I was off on a break, I was able to start going to yoga 3 days a week. And when I tell you that I have never felt as good as I feel now, that I've started to incorporate yoga into my life. And I remember that the first 2 sessions, I literally shedded tears because as the instructor Danielle was talking, there were things that she was saying, talking about letting go the things that you can't control, letting go the things that are causing pain, internal pain within your heart, your mind, and your spirit. And I absolutely felt like she was talking to me, like her message was specifically for me because I was struggling at that time, struggling with making some decisions that were really, really hard. And it was taking a toll on me. Like I could literally feel that I just was not well. And now I crave yoga. Like if I don't go to yoga, then that's a problem. But I've also found that I enjoy Pilates as well. So now you may not get me in a cardio kickboxing class. That's something that's I'm gonna try and test out. And I may be hard pressed to go to a dance class. I used to go to Zumba. I have not been cleared by my chiropractor yet to return to Zumba due to my back issues, but yoga and Pilates have been a lifesaver for me. I am so much more calm in terms of the things that used to get to me or make me frustrated. It just kind of rolls off my back now. And so I would encourage you, that's the one thing that I would say, I would encourage you, if you find yourself being filled with stress or always tense or, just having problems where you don't feel like you're calm or internally at peace, I definitely recommend yoga as a form of practice that you may want to try out. And I'm grateful that my instructor has even said to me, try out some other instructors. You don't have to always come to my class, but I enjoy her immensely. And I get a great workout in. So that's been my new thing. They say it takes 21 days to form a habit. I think yoga and Pilates have become my habit right about now. The other area in which that I've tried to kind of get some control over is my nutrition. Trying to make sure that I am pushing a gallon of water a day. And I know that can be very difficult as well, but that too has also made me feel much better, making sure that I get the appropriate amount of proteins and vegetables. I am not anywhere near a health guru. You're not going to find me every week saying, hey, I need for you guys to start eating healthy and exercising. That is not my thing. I am just encouraging you at the beginning of this year, look within to figure out ways in which you can make improvements within your life so that you can reduce the stress. Because for women, Black women, heart disease, we run the greatest risk of heart attack. So again, I want us to be more mindful of the stress that we endure so that we can begin to make some more sound decisions in how we are taking care of ourselves. Because let's face it, I've talked about this before. You can continue to pour into other people, but you can't pour from an empty cup. So if you are not doing the things necessary to replenish and refuel your soul, you can't possibly pour into your children, pour into your friends, your family, be there for your spouse or your significant other if you don't have an opportunity to replenish your own spirit and to get yourself recentered and refocused. So I can go ahead and make this announcement now. My life, I'm going to say professionally, is beginning to come full circle. I have been with the University of Illinois, Chicago. It will be 10 years actually, in May 2023. And I've always aspired to ascend to higher leadership roles. For the last 7 years of my career at the University of Illinois, Chicago, I have had the honor and pleasure of serving as the executive director for the Council on Teacher Education, and being responsible for ensuring that we have licensed K through 12 teachers, support personnel, and administrators working in our schools here in the state of Illinois. And one thing I want to tell you, just about how God and the universe works. Over the last several years, I've applied to a few positions. I was a finalist as the Associate Dean of Student Affairs in the College of Education. I was not selected. I also applied for another position I think it was about almost 4 years ago. And the position was Assistant Vice Provost for Student Success. During that time, I was not granted an interview because I had about 6.5 years of experience in higher ed at the time. The job description required 7 years. I applied for the job anyway because I had learned from several mentors and just listening to different professional development workshops that women are less likely to apply for a job if they don't check off every single one of those check boxes in terms of the requirements. But men, on the other hand, will apply for a job even if they don't meet all of the requirements. So I looked at the position. I felt that the position spoke to me. It was aligned with my passion for ensuring that students are successful throughout their higher education journey. But I wasn't granted an interview. And initially, I was a little disappointed, just as I was disappointed when I wasn't selected as the Associate Dean for Student Affairs in one of the other colleges. But there were a couple of things that happened during that particular season. In 2018, when I was the finalist for the Associate Dean position, and I wasn't selected, that's when I lost the man who I considered to be the love of my life, will always have a special place in my heart. And he passed away unexpectedly at 43 years old. And it was in that moment that I realized, I would have been entering into a brand new job and grieving. And when I work, any position that I take on, I give 110%. I want to give my all. And so that was clearly not the right time. And then when I applied for the Assistant Vice Provost for Student Success position and was not granted an interview, like I said, I was disappointed. But 2.5 months later, my dad passed away unexpectedly. Again, a time of loss and grief. And it has really taken me in 2020, I believe it was, no, 2021, I applied for another position at the university. And at the urging of other senior level folks, and I wasn't granted an interview. And I think I felt a bit of defeat. But I tried one more time. There was another position, was not granted an interview. And someone who I think very highly of, someone that I've worked for previously, would always say to me, what's for you is for you. And I really, I agreed with that, but there's something about one's ego. You begin to question yourself, like, what is it? Am I not good enough for this position? What is, really going on? But then I realized that I had so much that was happening 2022 was the year that, well, 2021, my youngest daughter graduated from 8th grade. Had to help her with transitioning from going through COVID and being behind a screen for a year and a half, essentially, for school, to transitioning to being in person and in her freshman year of high school, which was a huge transition. And then fast forward, having a set of twins who were graduating from high school in 2022 and preparing to go away to college. So my life has been, the last 4 years, 4 to 5 years of my life has been filled with transition, filled with some sort of loss, whether it's loss of a loved one or loss of, not so much as losing my children, but my children growing up and becoming young adults and preparing to move out of the house and moving at least 800 miles away to start the next chapter of their life. So there's been so much transition that has transpired. But through it all, I have managed to continue to come to you all weekly with the podcast, enjoying interviewing people who have just a wealth of knowledge to share with you all. But then also trying to figure out, what is this next chapter of my life going to look like? I have 2 years before I am officially an empty nester. And, oftentimes I'm joking saying that I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, because this last one, will be going away to college soon. But then realizing that I've given so much of my life and made all of my sacrifices have been for my children. My entire world has revolved around my children, that in a lot of ways, I couldn't advance professionally in the way that I needed to, or the way that I wanted to, because it's just me, not having a partner who can help and balance off that whole parenting piece. It's just me. And, but I try not to ever complain, but just begin to think about, what do I want this next chapter for my life to look like? How can I begin to make the appropriate moves to advance my career professionally in the way that will be satisfying to me? And so I was presented with an opportunity to consider something that would be beneficial to me professionally and give me an opportunity to continue to do what I love, which of course is to help create pathways so that students are able to successfully matriculate through college. I've been there as a student, first generation college student, who was able to navigate my own institution as a 16-year-old and complete my undergraduate degree in 3.5 years, and then return to get a master's and then a PhD. And so knowing what strategies work and what's necessary to kind of navigate this process. And so many families struggle with this. So many students struggle with this. And I just simply want to see our students be successful. I am sharing all of this because I had an opportunity to consistently reflect on my life, both personally and professionally. And rather than question God or question, why aren't things happening the way I want them to happen, I was consistently reminded that we can plan, but Allah God is the best of planners. So I'm going to come to you with a little bit of scripture from both the Holy Qur'an and the Bible, but God is the best of planners. And I have always been a planner, but I can tell you that when my plans have not come to fruition, there was always a reason behind it. Either God was protecting me from something that was not for me. If a particular door closed, I was being saved for something that may have caused me harm. And I truly believe that. I also believe that when the time is right, God will make it happen. And surely we have to do the work. We can't just sit back and wait for God to make things happen for us. We still have to do the work. But in the midst of doing the work, in the midst of making sure that our goals come to fruition, the one thing that I will definitely say that is of utmost importance is that we exhibit a level of humbleness, and that we also demonstrate gratitude. And I've talked a lot about being grateful and showing gratitude. But the one thing that I feel in my heart of hearts is that I am humble when it comes to my professional career and things that I've done throughout. I'm a doer. You're not going to find me talking and, sharing all that I know or all that I've done. I quietly do. I'm a doer. And I let my record speak for itself. And so when it comes time for being considered for an opportunity, it is a humbling experience to know that there are people who can recognize what I can bring to the table to any organization and want me to help them achieve a level of success, not only professionally, but for the entire team, for our students. I know that when you are grateful, that God will definitely increase you. If you give thanks, God will give you more. But if you are thankless, then rest assured that the challenges and the consequences will certainly be severe. If you are going through a season where things are not happening the way that you have planned, please know that in due season, the time will come. Whatever is for you is for you. And please make sure that you exercise a level of gratitude. And remember that God is the best of planners. With that, I want to say today that I am grateful and truly humbled to have been recently appointed as the new Assistant Vice Provost for Student Success at the University of Illinois, Chicago. So I'm very, very excited for this new role that I will embark upon starting February 1st. So that is next week. I have to hit the ground running, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to get a very quick mini vacation in, because ladies and gentlemen, I have not been on vacation. All of 2022 was work, hard work. And those vacations or those trips, so to speak, to Greensboro, North Carolina, that was not a vacation, that was work. So I am hoping that I will be able to carve out a few days for a mini vacation so that I can hit the ground running and make sure that the students who are matriculating at the University of Illinois Chicago are successful. And I also want to make sure that I am able to continue to give you all my all as the host and creator of LITE It Up podcast. So I thank you also very much for taking a moment to tune in for this week's episode. I hope you are excited for what is in store for season 6. I know I am certainly excited. Please remember to follow, like, and subscribe to the podcast. We're on all streaming platforms. That's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play. And we're also on Facebook and YouTube. So make sure you check out each of those channels. Make sure you like the YouTube page, the YouTube channel, and the Facebook page. And of course, there's Instagram. Hopefully in 2023, I'll get a little bit more active on Instagram, but please make sure that you like and follow the pages. I would really appreciate it if you could help me reach 1,000 subscribers for the Facebook page and the YouTube channel. So that is my challenge to each and every one of you. Help a girl out. I really appreciate it. And so I hope you all continue to have a fabulous week, and hope to see you back here next week. Same time, same channel. Make sure you tune in to LITE It Up. So until next time, continue to light it up and shine bright like a diamond. Thanks for joining me this week on LITE It Up. Make sure you visit my website at www.liteiituppodcast.com or www.ajinamuhammad.com. You can also find me on social media using the handle @LITEItUpPodcast. If you like what you've heard, please be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, I'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or you can simply tell a friend about the show. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for a new episode. Until next time, light it up and shine bright like a diamond.